Welcome to the Heart Wide Open Wellness Podcast, where we explore therapy, Kundalini Yoga, and all things holistic wellness. I'm Hannah Zachney, LMFT, International Retreat Leader, and Curious Human. Whether you're tuning into us via social media or any of the major podcast platforms, we're so grateful to have you here. Here's to opening our hearts and exploring life together. Welcome to the Heart Wide Open Wellness Podcast. I am so excited today to have LaToya Skinner. So LaToya and I met in a yoga class, and this is the truth. So we practiced many times together before we met. And after every class, I would be a sweaty mess, trying to catch my breath and pull myself together to go do the next thing. And I would look at her, and she would just be sitting so serene and taking in her class. And eventually I was lucky enough to do class next to her and just introduce myself. And that was the beginning of just connecting and sharing and talking. And we have stuff to look forward to. We'll be in Morocco together in the fall. And I quickly began to follow her on social media and just see what she was up to. And she has just a beautiful aesthetic that we will talk about today. So that's my intro from a personal view, but let's go ahead and just share a little bit of her professional bio. So LaToya Skinner is the founder of Lola Earl, an interior design studio and home decor store. She offers design services and a curated selection of vintage and artisanal decor for timeless spaces. She believes that her space could be curated reflection of what you love, filled with pieces that bring joy, reveal your unique style, and inspire a sense of connection. She can help you transform your home into a space where you feel deeply connected and truly alive, surrounded by the magic in every detail. Which is so true. And just let me go back to that Instagram, which you should follow her on Instagram because it's eye candy. You bring in like the earthy flowers and the inside or the outside into the inside so well. And being a travel bug myself, when I learned that you have created a way of living, of working, of supporting yourself where you can travel and bring home things that are so beautiful to you and then to share them with other people. It's just, what a cool thing you've created.
Oh my God, thank you so much. I love it.
Thank you for being here. Yeah, so what did I miss about where you are in, I guess, career-wise or anything?
Oh my gosh. I just feel like I'm having such an amazing time on this journey. And to be honest, it's the first time that I'm actually appreciating every step within the journey and accepting and loving every moment in the moment. And because of that, it has helped me to really think about not what I want in this life, but how I want to be in this life. And really think about what holds true to me. And traveling is the top, at the very top of that list, right? Yeah. And not waiting, I'm 45, I'll be 46 next month, and not waiting on, next year, or when I retire, or whatever the story that I used to tell myself. Now I'm just like, whatever it is, whatever sparks my creativity to really light me up. If it's learning something new, if it's being in nature, if it's traveling, whatever it is, I'm just doing it.
Yeah.
I'm just doing it.
So when did that shift happen for you?
When I was laid off. And so I was in a corporate position, was there for a long time, so 9 years. And I loved what I did until I didn't. And when I hear people say this, I totally align to it and understand it. There was this voice that started soft, and then those whispers became so loud, and it got louder over time.
Where you couldn't ignore it.
I couldn't. And it was telling me I have done what I need to do here, and it was time for me to do something else. But I didn't know what exactly. I kind of had an idea, but I didn't know, could I support myself doing what I actually love and what lights me up? So I was afraid. I mean, just to be honest with you, it was fear that was keeping me where I was. I was used to the lifestyle that I had. Let's be real, the paycheck was nice. But I was just not in a good place. And inside, I was just pieces of me was starting to leave, and I was becoming less of the shell of myself. I was becoming this person I didn't even recognize. I was just in the motion of just being and not living. And when my role was eliminated, I got a lot of calls from people, and they was like, "Oh my God, what are you gonna do? You okay?" And I was like, I don't know how to really say this, but I'm relieved.
Yeah.
I could just feel like,
well, it was a blessing. It sounds like you were
beyond. I just felt like this is what I needed, and I didn't really know what was next, but I knew like this was the step that needed to happen in my path to open me up to so much more. And boy, did it open me up.
It's
so much more.
Yes. It's such a gift when something like can kind of pull the rug out from underneath you, right? And you can go, all right, this is going to be probably really sad, unsettling, and probably very challenging, but equally probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. It's almost like that's what it felt like you had. Like, okay.
And I still was like, I had my freak out moments.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness, what am I doing?
Yeah.
How am I support myself? Maybe I should go back. All these things. And I kept telling myself, like, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
You're here for a reason. You're on this path for a reason. Like literally having conversations with myself.
Where did all that come from? Because you had some of that before this happened then.
So I had some of that before. Therapy helped a lot. Really unraveling the belief system that either I created for myself or that was created for me. And so breaking through those things, calming my inner child down, let her know like, I'm okay. You don't have to protect me. So therapy helped like a lot of that.
Yeah.
And then through therapy, I was introduced to meditation, which before I tried to meditate and my brain would just like, it would not.
Busy.
Right. It was like running through the whole to-do list and just everything. I just couldn't sit still. And I just like, this is not for me. But I think I was in a new place in my life to where it absolutely was time to try it again. So I did. And the first time I couldn't sit long, but I gave myself grace. I'm like, okay, you sat for 15 seconds. That's good for today.
Yeah.
We'll try it again tomorrow. And each time got a little easier. But when I started to really allow myself the stillness of life, that's when I started to really see what life could be. And meditation, like I tell people all the time, like meditation is one of the best tools you can have for yourself. Because because it really allows you to sit still. And start to really become connected to the capital Y-O-U, the center within yourself, right? And you start to become at peace. So these external things that drives us nuts every day, that causes us all this anxiety and pressure and whatever, you start to slowly let those things go, right? And it became like this beautiful thing for me. So the meditation started, and then yoga. Now, I will say with yoga, it's important to find the right studio.
Yes. And the right style of yoga for you at the time. Which that can shift. Yes.
I tell people, because they're like, why do you drive? Because I live in Sacramento. So they drive all the way. I'm saying, because I found the right studio with the right instructors, with the right vibe. It's like, it works for me. So I'm making the drive. But to me, that's just as important. And what is teaching me, one is definitely stillness, but it's okay to fail. And I mean, I feel like sometimes I don't get the poses right. Sometimes I'll come up from downward dog and
sometimes.
right. More like 70% of the time in class, and I'm facing the wrong direction. Right. And I'm like, oh, other right.
I say sometimes you're just in the moment. And
right. It's just like, and I realize it's okay. Just let it flow like water, right? It's like however I land is how I land. But the good thing about it is that I can either take a break if I need a break. I can slow it down if I need to slow it down, or I can just stand back up and try again, right? And it's a good community. So those things, in addition to journaling, has really helped me.
Well, you have a great toolkit,
right?
All those things.
With everything added over time,
That explains how you were able to be prepared to deal with something that was taken away from you
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
or
mm-hmm.
offered.
Right. Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
for sure.
Mm-hmm,
Okay, that is shocking a little bit to me
mm-hmm,
because a lot of the way that you present, at least on your reels and the way
mm-hmm.
that you have shared, is really highlighting how that sense of stillness and really, I think it's like self-reflection,
Mm-hmm.
that's in some of your design.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I see that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that is something that is shocking to me that was a newerly developed thing, but also does make sense that it's a like almost a foundational piece of how you
Yes,
work and how you incorporate what you do.
I do. And so I went to France, I want to say 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it opened my eyes to a new way that could be. You would go to cafes and people were just living.
Yeah.
They were slowing down. They were
In the
enjoying.
moment, no rush.
No, when I say no rush, like
Isn't that the best? Like,
right,
oh, time,
right.
hey, time.
And the markets out there, because I love antiques and vintage
Mm-hmm.
items, and just the character of the items, and sometimes they were had little chips, or you just
Mm-hmm.
hear the stories
Mm-hmm.
of the different items that I was purchasing, and I was like, oh my goodness, there is another way to be.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came home and I started thinking about my own design journey and kind of how I wanted to live in the home and hopefully help other people live in a home, to me, it's really about slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
It's about enjoying the moment
Mm-hmm.
for the moment and really living in your home.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes we get away from that because
Yeah.
we're so used to everything happening so fast. But everything takes time to grow. You really have to plant the seed, water, and watch it
Yep.
grow, right?
Yep.
And I really want people to think about that when they're designing their homes. It takes time. I've literally been in my home almost 7 years now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just starting to feel like,
Yeah.
like a really good place where
Yeah.
I can walk around each space and really feel good about it. But
Yeah.
it took time and me trying things, and sometimes it didn't work out, and I had to pivot a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoy that life of just slowing down,
Mm-hmm.
from gardening to just sitting on my couch and just like no TV on, just like
Mm-hmm. Just
sometimes,
being.
right, just
Yeah.
being exactly in the space and
Yeah.
enjoying the space for what it is and what it has to offer me at the time.
Yeah. Something else I definitely have spent some time like really truly learning from what you have laid out. Another thing that it feels complementary to what we're talking about right now is choosing one piece at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
almost could see that as these individual evolutions of this is me at this time. This chair represents
Mm-hmm.
this season, and then this painting represents this season,
Mm-hmm.
and how you've worked with some of your pieces. Even now, do you refinish things too, or do you like?
I'm starting to. So
Okay.
when I say refinish, I'm not the DIY queen.
Yeah.
I do have folks that I work with that
Uh-huh.
would reupholster for me or
Yeah.
refinish wood.
Mm-hmm.
I keep saying I want to practice on a couple of pieces
Yeah.
first,
Yeah.
but I do think there's something to that. I
Yeah.
bought a chair, gosh, it's probably been about 15 years now, and I loved it at the time, but then maybe about 5 years ago or so, because I still had the chair,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted in the home, but I wanted to change the way it looks. So I had
Mm-hmm.
it reupholstered, and I absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm.
And the company that reupholstered for me, she was like, this is a solid chair.
Yeah.
And that's what I like. It's something that I purchased years ago because I really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like the fabric in the current space.
Yeah.
So instead of just throwing it away,
It still had purpose.
right.
It still had, yeah.
Right. And I was like, how can I just give it a new life? And so that's the thing I encourage people to do is to kind of do an audit and look at what are the things that currently bring you joy in your home. Because I think a lot of times when we want to remodel or refresh, we want to get rid of everything.
Yeah.
I mean, even I want to do that. I'm like, I just want to just start over.
Well, in a moment of overstimulation, you're like,
it's just
everything
goes.
Everything goes.
But it's like, okay, let's take a breath. Let's pause. Let's kind of
Uh-huh.
look through and see what are the pieces, like what are the bones, what are the things that maybe they bring you a memory or just make you feel happy because it's in your space. And then what can you keep? What can you maybe repurpose, right? And then what can you start curating and bringing in new over time?
To what degree are you working with people to do that?
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're in some trade shows now and
Yes.
like really expanding in a lot of ways. And I want to learn a little bit about your business. And then I also want to talk about your journey into this business because I think they're both very interesting. Yes.
So I'm working with clients now, which I absolutely love because I want to not only help them create these beautiful spaces, but teach them how to do this over time themselves so they become more comfortable and confident as they're designing their spaces. So we work one-on-one and I go through their design story to kind of help them develop what that is for them, how they want to live, and most important to me, how they want to feel in their space, right? Think about,
is that a design story? Is how they want to feel?
Yeah. Yes. And then also think about, so for example, I had a client, double living rooms. A lot of older homes have 2 sitting rooms, but didn't need that second room. So what else could it be? Right? That brings you joy or makes you happy, right? So just rethinking how to use spaces, but being intentional on how to use them, right? And, we sometimes can go on a shopping trip together. We can go and source vintage items or antiques or just trying to get people in the just rhythm of finding things that they really love and that means something to them was in their home. Because I know not everyone travels. I'd love to travel and I do understand like I have the ability to do that, but not everyone does, right? But there are a lot of great vintage places you can go that will source them and curate them for you that you can go in and start to purchase items over time to where you become the collector of your home and what that feels like for you.
It's almost like you're teaching people not only the skill of shopping and looking at purpose with that, but also like teaching them the skill of really listening to themselves. Like teaching them the art of all of those meditation and stillness and everything to bring into their home.
Yes. Getting back into, your space and making your space personal for you.
What do you tell somebody that has just, I'm just thinking, I know myself in certain times in my life. My kids are 2 launching into college and 1 at home. They're boys, so they're hard on our house. So I've kind of washed it up to like, oh, I'll just do that later. Like I used to really take a lot of time with my space. And at this stage, the raising kids, it didn't make sense. But it was always important. Like, I'm just curious, do you have advice for the people that have like dogs or kids or... Yeah.
I think people think, because I hear sometimes too, like, well, I have kids or I have pets, and they think like they can't have, a nice home with nice things in them, right? And for example, I use vintage rugs throughout my home, and these rugs some of them are like 100 years old.
Wow.
And I have friends over. Things happen. Red wine has been spilled.
Yes.
The
house is to be lived in. Right.
Yeah. And I was like, things are going to happen. And so, but because these things are well made, it's easy to take, to clean them or to, fix them wherever it is, right? Like I love linen and I use a lot of linen napkins, even when I'm just eating pizza, like I don't care. And I have folks like, well, I don't want to use, the nice linens. I'm like, every day you wake up, it's a celebration of you. Please use.
And the good china and the things.
Like you bought these things for a reason, right? These things should be used in your home. And I think people are afraid of, well, what if things happen? I mean, the other day I dropped a plate. Things happen, right? But it's okay. It's not going to stop me from using the rest of
that plate, but it's just a plate.
It's just a plate, right? And I have more.
Right.
So I think it's kind of getting people to think about changing their mindset a little bit and to realize like your home is meant to be lived in. And yes, things are going to happen. That's just life, but it still doesn't mean you can't enjoy things in your home. Before my dog passed, I had a dog. I still have nice furniture.
So
I just think, you have to decide what you're comfortable with, but I do think you still can live with beautiful things in your home. I think we have to get out of the world that everything is so perfect,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and who defines that?
Right.
Yeah.
All the
Yeah.
time, and just start living with the things that you find beautiful in your home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Give me an example of something that is beautiful to you that would be maybe a little bit more unique to your style.
Ooh. In terms of like just decor
Sure.
or
Or
okay.
anything that comes up, really.
Right now, like I love textiles.
Uh-huh.
And I am playing a lot with mixing patterns and prints.
Mm-hmm. That's so fun.
It is fun. And I'm playing around with it. So I'm learning new things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a great way to add texture and layers to your home,
Mm-hmm.
especially because a lot of people have neutral homes right
Mm-hmm.
now. And I get folks like, I love neutrals, but I want to punch it up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a good way, either it's, pillows, or it's curtains,
Mm-hmm.
or anything from my tablecloth, wallpaper.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Wallpaper's fun again.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Like, can I just drape my whole house?
Yes. Yes.
And so there are ways to do these
Yeah.
things. And it's a way for you to play around with it. I was like, this is your chance to really show your personality and pick things that just make you smile. I love art. I've been collecting for a while.
Now, do you seek like artists that you know, or are you attracted to just art that you enjoy?
Art that I enjoy.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of it. And I tell people, because a lot of times I think, oh, but art's really expensive. Like, yes.
Yeah, yes. Well, it can
But
be.
it can be. There are a lot of artists that do limited prints, and you can purchase a really nice print. Most of the time they're signed, they're numbered, they come with their certificate. You can go and have it framed, and it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Right. And so there are ways to do it. And between Etsy and just some other platforms, Instagram, like there are a lot of places you can go to where you can find amazing artwork. That's just a step up from
from something
right, like mass produced, right, and to really add charm and personality to your home.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So tell me about this creative streak of you. Like, have you always been kind of creative? Like, okay.
I always have. I just didn't really lean into it. And so my mom always laughs because when I was a kid, I used to love like rearranging the living room or changing my room. During the holidays, I just love to decorate.
Yeah.
And it probably drove her crazy, but she just let me play in my creativity.
Yeah. You're one of those people that just like, just rearrange everything out. Yeah.
And I'm like that still to this day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as I got older, I decided to go just a safe route because I thought that was a safe bet for me. And I kind of tucked away my creativity. But throughout my life, it kept like showing up in different ways. And like working in advertising, I was a lot of creative people, a lot of artists, and just people that thought in a very creative way. And it was just always there. And like I said, sometimes things just get louder and louder. And I always loved the home because the home represents community and love and just connection. And I've always rearranged, done things in my home to where my friends will come over and like, your home is beautiful. And one day I was just like, why not? Why not do something that I actually love to do?
Yeah.
I was a little afraid because I was in my 40s at this time and just thinking about starting something brand new that I felt like I didn't necessarily have all the skill sets to do. Like my career that I was in, I was like, absolutely, I can do it, like no problem.
Yeah.
This is new. This is something I had to get comfortable with. To try new things, be okay with failing again and pivoting and all these things. And so, but the more I did it, the more I just fell in love with it over and over and over again, especially traveling. And I'm excited for Morocco because I just know what I'm going to see there.
Talk about the richness of colors and textures
and textiles and all that. I just cannot wait. But those are the things. And so I'm learning to just lean into that, just lean into it more, be playful. Do things that speak to me versus what I see externally. And that plays a lot in how we design within homes. And so that's kind of, my journey or pathway
Mm-hmm.
into where I've landed now.
So I so relate to a piece that you just said. So I think there's I definitely feel like I'm a creative person,
Mhm.
but I played it safe for, it was really creative. And then I was doing all the right things and playing it safe a little
Mhm.
bit. And it
Mhm.
didn't really bother me, but it
Mhm.
was fine.
Mhm.
But then something was like, wait, you're missing out on
Mhm.
this part of you. And so how do you, I'm sure other people relate to that.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
how do you teach the people that you work with, based on what you've learned, to reconnect? Because then it's not that they're not creative, they just they
Yeah.
disconnected from it, right? So how do you
Yeah.
reconnect to
And
that?
I get that a lot, actually. I get that people are like, I just don't know how to do this,
Yeah,
or I'm not creative, or I don't know. And I'm like, well, you do know, you're
right.
just not listening to it, right?
Yes, and I want to hear more about
Right.
that voice. Like, yes,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
how
It's
why
in
didn't you
you.
listen to it at one point in your life?
Yeah.
Because also I would say that's probably always been there,
Yes.
but
Yes.
it got louder
Yes.
and louder,
Yes.
and
It's
then
where I could
how do
ignore
you,
it. Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I tell people, like, it's always there.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to you to sit still with it,
Mm-hmm.
to listen to it, to connect with it.
To honor it.
Yeah, right. That's all on you. And I really think that's the beauty of this life that we're living.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was always there, and it's always showed up in different ways in my
Mm-hmm.
life, but I wasn't really allowing it to be in the presence that it wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
right? I decided, they say you, you
Mm-hmm.
are on is a way of you,
Yes, yes.
right? I decided that, yeah, I can do these things, as a hobby, but as like my moneymaker, no. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
do what I think is a safe thing, which is build my career in the corporate world. But I do think that's why meditation is good. That's why journaling is
Mm-hmm.
good, even yoga, because all these things help you to sit still and you can clearly hear what you need to hear in a very
Mm-hmm.
positive way. You can hear
Mm-hmm.
or feel the vibrations.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I'm learning now is to listen to my center
Mm-hmm.
and to really when it's a yes or it's a no,
Mm-hmm.
right? And not being afraid when it's a no. It's just not for me, and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let it go. I don't have to chase
Mm-hmm.
it. I don't have to try to make it
Mm-hmm.
work. I don't have to,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
just let it go. And then when it's a yes, no matter how like terrified I may be, when it's a yes, it's my path to have. Just go with it and let whatever is going to unfold. So I do think everyone has it in them. We all
Mm-hmm.
do.
Mm-hmm.
No one is special over someone else.
Yeah.
I really just think you have to know to sit still with yourself so you can be at one with it.
Mm-hmm. And even if it's only 15 seconds for the first time.
Right, seriously. I'm like, I tell people, give yourself grace. I
Yeah.
think we think we have to do like this big gesture,
Mm-hmm.
right? I know a lot of people always ask like, what is my mission in life, or what is my purpose in life? And we always think we have to be in like Oprah or Beyonce or all these big name
Mm-hmm.
people, and we're really here to love,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And how you love is how you love. So if that's just saying good morning to people when
Mm-hmm.
you go for a walk, or open the door for people, or maybe you donate, I don't know, but
Mm-hmm.
whatever your service is to
Mm-hmm.
others, that's your service,
Yeah.
and that's your light. So lean into it. And so once I started to really connect and understand that, then it was like, okay, I can lean more into, my center and what no one else, but what I need and how I want to move forward as I continue to live this beautiful life that I get to live.
Uniqueness of you.
Yes, absolutely.
The last 5 sentences you just said were incredible.
Mhm.
Absolutely incredible. Okay, so the irony of you saying that the safe thing, though,
Mhm.
right? It's so funny how we get so messed up in our heads, right? From our how we're programmed and what
Yes.
we're taught.
Yes.
Because really, the safe thing is to do the thing that you're just naturally good at, which you're doing now. That's what's safe, is to just, oh, I have this talent. I have this intuitive way of relating with things to create beautiful spaces that support my inner being so I can listen to myself. I mean, you say it like that and you're like, well, I just got chills saying it like that. So like, oh my gosh, what a gift,
Mhm.
right? But then we think, well, why would I do that? That's not safe. I
Yeah.
should do the thing that I went and got a degree or a
Yes.
certificate or
Yes.
a thing about,
Yes.
or that somebody else has said, like, you're good at that. So,
Yes.
but really, like that uniqueness that you were just referencing,
Yeah.
that's the thing to step
Yeah.
towards.
Yeah, and I will say this, like everyone has to figure this out for themselves, right? Because
Like everything.
yeah, but seriously,
Yeah.
right? And I think a lot
Mhm.
of times because people like, oh, it's the battle between corporate and
Mhm.
having your own business. And I'm like, well, it's based on the individual, right? And so what works for me is to be in a position to where I 100% am creative,
Mhm.
right? It doesn't work, and I have definitely have patterns of the loop when
Mhm.
when I'm
Yeah.
not, and I'm in a position where I'm not creative, and I end up back in the same position. I
Mhm.
was telling my brother, it's like I'm in the groundhog movies. Like I
Yeah.
just keep circling.
Yeah.
Every day is the same, and I'm learning lessons throughout. Then one day it's like you had an aha moment. But I do think for me, it was like, okay, I tried this. I did the thing that I thought I needed to do because
Mhm.
of what I knew at the time.
Mhm.
So now let me try something different.
Mhm.
Let me try something on my own terms. Let me
Mhm.
try something that is centered truly to who my authentic self really is,
Mhm.
right? And let's see what happens. I've
Mhm.
tried the other way,
Yeah.
and yes, I've done well in those other
Yeah. Of
spaces,
course. I'm sure you did.
but I've always ended up,
Yeah.
the road has always ended
Yeah. Yeah.
same position.
Well, it's kind of the universe being like,
Right.
okay.
Right. So
Yeah.
this was like, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's try a different way, and let's see what happens. And
Mhm.
I always remind myself to give myself forgiveness throughout, right?
Mhm.
Because there are moments like I'm human. I always,
Mhm.
some days I do freak out. Some days I wake up like, oh, what am I doing?
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important to say that because I do know when you're out doing your own thing, there's
Right.
there's days where you're like,
Seriously.
and then there's days where you're like, oh my gosh,
Right.
right? Like, what am I doing?
Right. You
And
have invoices coming in
yeah,
and you have, real things happening.
right,
Right.
right.
And, and the mind likes to,
Oh yeah, you make a story real quick.
oh, and then here comes the ego.
Yes, yes,
Right?
yes,
And you're like, okay,
yes,
like, I don't need
yes.
this right now. Let me go clear my mind. Usually it means being in nature, but those are real things.
Yeah.
And I tell people just have grace. You don't
Mhm.
have to have it all figured out. Go what makes you feel good. And we all know. We know when we make a decision, when we like, oh boy, what did I just do? Or
Mhm.
to be like, I'm not sure about this, but let me try it
Yeah.
and see what happens. And at the end of the day, and it's something I learned too, whatever you decide, only you
Mhm. Mhm.
have to
Back
deal
to
with.
you.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't tell people, it always comes back to you. I say, you can, put this off on someone else or whatever, and say, but it's always going to circle right back to you. And
Yeah.
whatever you decide for you, only you going to have to deal with whatever
Yeah.
comes next. Right. And so once I started to really understand that, then it became, okay, let me figure out what I want.
Mhm.
Right. What I
Mhm.
want, how I want to live in the amount of time that I'm here.
Yeah.
Right. What does
Yeah.
that look like for me on my own terms? And that's
Yeah.
really when I started to, and it's interesting the list. It's not like, oh, I want to be, multimillionaire,
Mhm.
like I used to be on my
Mhm.
list,
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
That was like, I want a garden.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
travel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to have a curated home that brings me happiness, where
Yeah.
I can have connection and love and peace and safety. Like
Yeah.
the things that start to become more important to me are changing,
Mhm.
right? And maybe they always been there. I don't know,
Mm.
but the
Your
outlook is a little
connection and
bit,
depth to their
yeah,
importance has increased.
right, right.
So when you have those moments
Mhm,
where it feels scrambled or maybe
mhm,
like self-doubt could creep in or
mhm,
second guessing could creep in,
mhm.
you get there's a lot of tools you have,
Yeah.
but like how would you advise other people to actually do it? Because it's one
Okay.
thing to say, I have a lot of grace with myself, which I believe you,
Mhm.
but how does somebody who doesn't really know how to implement grace like that,
Okay.
what do they actually do?
I literally have a conversation with myself, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's in the mirror.
Yeah. Your
Because
talk is great.
yeah, because
Uh-huh.
I literally like in the mirror, I'm like, what's wrong with you today?
Kind of wish I could watch it.
Right. Seriously. It's one of those talks. It's like,
Yeah.
what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And of
but
course,
you're really curious.
right, because
answer.
something is off, right? Something is off. So
Yeah.
I need to ask. I don't want to assume. I'm going to ask directly, what's
Aw,
wrong?
yeah.
Right? And sometimes, it's the ego that steps in and starts like,
Yeah.
because and I'm like, okay, but what's really going on?
Yeah.
Right? And then like I start to soften and then I'm like, okay, it's this, right?
Uh-huh.
I'm like, okay, so what can you do?
When you know what it is, you can do something
Right,
with it.
right. Because sometimes it's just let
Mhm.
it go.
Yes.
Right.
Most of the time, I would say it's just letting go.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's like let it
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
But you can't let go of some
right.
big bag of whatever that you're
Right.
just lugging around,
Right.
right? Like, and you have to know that you got the bag,
Right.
before you can drop it.
Right. Seriously,
Mhm.
and then I'm like, okay, what do you need today?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's, I need to go for a walk. I need to be in
Mhm.
nature. Sometimes I need to meditate. Sometimes it's
Mhm.
yoga. Sometimes it's, I need to be creative. So
Mhm.
I can go play around in my garden or I'll
Mhm.
paint or
Mhm.
draw or whatever it is. Right.
Mhm.
It's like I need to channel my creativity so
Mhm.
that I can start raising my vibration.
Mhm.
Right. And sometimes it's more than one thing I need to
Mhm.
do, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I'll meditate and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, what else do you need?
Right. Sometimes it's like maybe an
Right.
all day
Right.
back-to-back sequencing. Yes. Yes.
Sometimes I
Yeah.
need to laugh. So I'll watch
Yeah.
comedy movies
Yeah.
or, romantic, whatever it is,
That's an
Um,
undervalued tool, is
yeah.
laughter. It really is.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and then slowly I start to see my moods changing,
Mhm.
right? Or sometimes I just need to call a good friend of mine and we just like
Mhm.
laugh and laugh and laugh. And then
Mhm.
off the phone, I'm like, that's what I needed,
Yeah.
because maybe, it was connection,
Yeah.
and so I just think you have to be honest with yourself and
Yeah.
you always know what's wrong,
Yeah.
right? You do.
If you're
And
being honest with
if
yourself.
you're being
Yeah.
honest with yourself, right? And that was one of the tools I learned in therapy. She was
Mhm.
like, you can lie to everybody else,
Yep.
but you can't lie to yourself, right?
This is why I love relationship and community, because you can say you got it all together
Right.
to yourself and
Right.
even to your therapist.
Right.
But the minute you got to go out and do like real life relationship,
Yeah.
it's like a whole new game.
Yeah, because your body knows, and your
Yeah.
body, your attitude, your
Yeah.
facial, like everything, would just
Yeah.
tell a different story, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I think it's important to just ask yourself, be honest. I always say, give yourself grace.
Yeah.
You don't have to have it all figured out. It's not for you to say what the thing is and then all of a sudden get into like this 10-year goal
Yeah.
plan on
Step
how
by
to
step.
solve.
No, you
Yeah.
got to let it like have some
Right.
flow and some some
Mm-hmm.
like movement. Like it's not
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
step by step for sure.
And just focus on that moment right there.
Mm-hmm.
What is the one thing in this moment you can do to either change the outcome or just go sit still with yourself?
It's so ironic because, in having these conversations at this deeper level, I'm really
Mhm.
enjoying having people where I can talk in this format. And
Mhm.
most of the people that I feel drawn to share this space with
Mhm.
are people that reference this sense, or I pick up on that sense of presence,
Mhm.
that sense of being able to just be right here in the moment.
Mhm.
And I think that's probably what is attractive to why I was like, who's that woman that's just sitting on her mat, being able to be in her space right
Mhm.
now? I think
Mhm.
that's probably the
Yeah.
thing. And I'm sure my question for you is, how have people in your world watching you evolve from, this, the corporate version of you
Mhm.
to this version of you,
Yeah.
what kind of feedback do you
Oh
get
my
and how are you
gosh.
inspiring people? I mean, I'm
I
sure
do.
it's,
It's so funny, especially my friends or even some of the folks that I used to were on the team that I led. When we talk now, there goes, you are like a new person.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they're just like the smile on your face, like just how you light up, like there's something different about you. And I think being able to, first we got to do the work. Like there's no, I would not be speaking the way I speak or have starting to become the true me that I am, right? Without doing the work.
No, you
right?
gotta find yourself.
I had to go find myself. And I tell people all the time, like I had to go find LaToya, right? Not the LaToya that people thought I was or expected me to be, or, how my ego wanted people to perceive me to be, right? I had to strip. And that was not an easy task. I had to strip all of that and stand just who I am and actually figure out who that is, you know, and what I liked and what I didn't like and what are my new boundaries and just all these things. And through that, you know, I love sharing knowledge or just experiences with people because I think the more we talk about these things and it becomes more the normal, where people will be open to leaning in a little bit more or understanding when these things are happening, right? And I'm like, I tell people, like, sometimes in yoga, like, I get so clear, like, it just, you know, especially when we're just at the end. That's the reason why you say I just sit there, because the clarity that comes into focus for me. And I was like, I would not be in that space if I hadn't allowed it to be and I hadn't, you know, around other people that have experienced certain things where they're like talking about it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, something similar, you know? So now I have the words for it, right? So now I understand it a little bit more. And I think you're coming to really being at peace, you know, and seeing things for what they are, being okay, changing only what you can change and releasing everything else and really living in gratitude.
So you shared something with me earlier that is just that really resonated with me too, was that you have to have faith that it'll all work out.
You do.
And once you have that though, all the ambiguity of how it's going to go down it's not as important. Like it may not be smooth, but it's going to be okay even when it's not okay.
Absolutely. And I think that's the hardest thing, right? Even for myself, when I first started this, like, what do you mean everything's going to be? And I would tell you, yes, I have faith. Yes, I believe in God, right? But internally, I was like, huh? Like, you mean it's just going to all come together?
Well, change is unsettling. Change is stressful. So when you're changing your whole life, even if it's for the good, it's stressful.
And so I was like, okay, fear and faith cannot coexist, right? So if I say I have faith, I have to truly believe with my whole being that no matter what comes my way, I'm going to be okay, right? Because people think, well, you know, you are always going to live in, like, you know, the perfect sunshine, rainbows and butterflies. I'm like, no, life is about lessons and blessings. We're all here to learn, hopefully to grow, and then to experience something that is something you could never imagine. Like every rock bottom I've been in, and in it, I'm like, oh boy, I don't see the light. People say you'll see the light eventually. I'm like, is it? Because I don't know.
But the more of those you survive, the more you realize, oh, this was a really big burn. It must be a huge blessing.
Something is coming.
Yes.
And then it becomes okay. There's peace in that, right? And so I always tell people, like, these things are happening as always for us. It's a wake-up call. Some of us have to go through harder ones than others, right? But this is all helping you become the best version of you. You just got to lean into it and trust that it's going to be okay. And if you listen to, that's why I love storytelling. If you listen to like stories of people and you hear people that, I would say, you think your situation is bad, then you hear someone else's story, like, whoo.
No, that is true.
Right.
Well, that's what they say. Like, if you're really down, go help somebody. Because then you realize it puts your stuff in perspective.
Just a little bit, It gets you like a little,
it helps multiple people, right?
It does.
So it definitely is a tool.
It does. But even then, you hear, you know, certain stories and you're like, okay, anything is possible, right? This person just believed that they could and they had the faith that they could, right? And they just took small steps forward, right? And then they let the magic really just unfold, right?
Yes. Well, and that makes sense of what you did, because I think, you know, in the development of what I do, like I became a therapist, and then I was like, wait, I want to add retreats, and I want to add yoga, and I want to have a group practice, and now I want to do a podcast. And so it's like, but there isn't nobody else is doing it exactly the way I am doing it. And nobody's doing it the exact way that you're doing it. And I remember, I don't feel this way anymore because I relate to a lot of the lessons that you've also experienced. But I know when you're in that creating of something that doesn't exist and that you don't have a modeling for, you know, nobody else is doing it the exact way you want to do it. So it's like, you don't have like, oh, I'll go follow those steps. Those steps don't exist. You're creating the steps. You have to have that faith that I will
Yes.
just go,
Yeah.
and it will be revealed, and it's probably way better than you could even come up with.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, and I think this is where a lot of people, when they start having an aha moment, especially when they're building something
Mm-hmm.
that's unique,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times we want to follow a blueprint,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And we want to
Feel
say,
safe.
right, it's like, oh, this person did this to get to where I want to
Mm-hmm.
get to. So I'm going to follow their
Mm-hmm.
steps to get the same outcome. And most of the time, it doesn't work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because what worked for them worked for them. I'm
Yeah.
not saying you can't take pieces from it,
Right.
but you're unique to what you want to do.
Yes.
And you need to lean more into your creativity so that
Mm-hmm.
you can find, in your faith, so that you can find your
Mm-hmm.
own path forward. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, I don't know, but even I talk to people and I was like, how did you, whatever. And
Yeah.
they like, honestly, I just leaned into me.
Yeah.
And like, I totally see that now.
Yeah.
Like, the more I lean into my authentic self,
Yeah. That
the
summarizes what you've been talking about. I lean into me.
right,
The real me.
the real me,
Mm-hmm.
right? The more I lean into
Mm-hmm.
that version of me, the stronger my faith becomes,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just the more life just opens
Mm-hmm.
up
Mm-hmm.
to me,
I
right?
love it.
And so I think that's what people should really, I'm sure people are going through really hard times,
Yeah.
but I do think whatever you're trying to do, if it's build something, if it's, if you like being in the corporate environment,
Mm-hmm.
and I have friends that do,
Yeah.
and you're trying to figure out your path there, right? Whatever it is in life, really think about what do you want to do out
Mm-hmm.
of this,
Mm-hmm.
right? And sit with that for a minute. Because
Mm-hmm.
the more you connect to that true authentic person, and honestly, when people used to say that, I'm like, I am authentic. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right? But I didn't understand. Oh, I got to connect to
Yes. Yes. Yes.
the inner.
Well, I think our languaging is catching up with
Right.
what's really, and also like when really powerful stuff happens in here, I don't know that we even have the languaging.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
more of a like understanding or like
Mhm.
figuring out, and
Mhm.
it's just a
Yeah.
connection that you, like a desire of your heart that you step towards.
Right. And I feel like the more that happens, the more things open up in
Mhm.
ways you would never imagine. Right?
Never.
Never.
Yeah.
I mean, go to Morocco. I mean,
Yay! We are going to have the best time. Group of women.
and that's the thing. I told myself, like, I want to travel, and I didn't know how I was going to do it.
Yeah.
Didn't really have a plan, just knew I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And I've been able to go on trips.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, how are you doing this? I'm like, I just have faith. It's going to be okay. I'm able to co-create the life that I want. And this is part of the life that I want, right?
Yeah.
And I'm letting things unfold to me as they're unfolding.
Well, if you need another side job, you could do education on manifesting, right? Because that's also something that you, but that's being in touch with faith. I think you start to manifest because you're co-creating.
I do. And honestly, I tell people about manifesting. It's really about thinking about what you want and how you align to a thing through your true authentic self, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times we want things because our ego is like feeding into us, right?
But what is a match?
Right. We want this life. We want to do this, right? Because our ego is like, yep, this is what we want for you. And this is what you need to be, put into your mind.
Yeah.
But when you start to release that and you start asking yourself, what is it that I really want? How do I want to live this life while I'm here? What does that mean for me? And really start connecting that to your true self. I think that's when you really start to manifest the big things, because it's not coming from the place of ego.
Yeah.
It's coming from the place of I yourself or God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I can't wait to see what happens for you. And I'm so definitely going to be by your side in Morocco when we go into some of the shops. And I'm sure I'll come home with much more amazing things than I would have without you by my side. But I call this everything I do heart wide open, because it's the energy of opening your heart and then doing what we can to keep it open rather than closing when we're scared or defensive or overwhelmed or fill in the blank, right? So what does it mean to you to live with your heart wide open?
To live with love. Let the light in. Shine in your own light.
Yeah.
Walk your own path. Become you.
I would say you're doing that. Yeah. So what is, final question, what's next, or is it just a continuation of what you're doing right now?
I think continuation. I love working with clients. I love helping people really think about their spaces
Mm-hmm.
with more intention, to really think about how they want to live. That brings me joy.
Yeah.
A lot. Definitely want to travel more.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm enjoying gardening right now.
Yeah.
I didn't think I would become that person, but
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. And that cake you made with those
Oh
lemons.
my God. So that's the thing. I've been buying cookbooks.
Mm-hmm.
And that recipe came from Barefoot Contessa's cookbook.
Oh, I'm sure it had 1 million ingredients in it.
No,
Oh, did it?
no. And it
Okay.
was so easy. So I'm fine with cooking. The baking
Yeah.
part, I've
Yeah.
always been like a little
It's a
iffy on.
science. Yeah.
So I told myself this is one of the things I want to learn. And so that's why started buying the cookbooks. But I have all these lemons and I've been like making
Yeah.
new recipes. And I was like, I'm going to make this cake. And I surprised myself.
Love that.
Because it's like, I had to switch a few of her
Yeah.
ingredients, but I was
Yeah.
just like, well, we gonna see.
Yeah.
And when it was baking, it smelled so good through
Yeah.
the house. I was like, please taste. It smells right now.
It did. I love
did.
that.
It did.
I
So
loved it. Well,
I just want to whatever it is, I want to, the baking more and
mhm.
just learning whatever skills or thing I want to learn next. And it's always going to be around what lights me up.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
We all need a little more of that. So
Mhm.
thank you for being a great example of that. And keep posting everything that you're doing because it always inspires me. I'm like, oh, I need to find more time for that today. And I do. It's contagious. So thank you.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us on the Heart Wide Open Wellness Podcast. We appreciate your time, energy, and attention. Whether you're watching or listening, please remember to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. Stay up to date with us at heartwideopenwellness.com so you don't miss any upcoming events, offerings, or retreats. Until next time, keep your heart wide open.